Yeah, we're not doctors or giving any medical advice. This show is intended for educational purposes only, and you should talk to your doctor about any medical issues. Now, let's get at it.
Welcome to Chat the Fat, where nutrition authors Nissa Gron and TC Hale are going to break down common low-carb mistakes. Let's chat all things low-carb, keto, digestion, and more so you can maximize your results.
Hello, good people, and welcome back to Chat the Fat. This is episode 87. I'm TC Hale, and I'm here with Nissa Gron, and our word of the day is pencil sharpener.
Why is that the word of the day?
I don't know. We had a word of the day last week. It worked really well. So now we just need to find ways to get pencil sharpener into the conversation. I think merit worked better, but we got to chat. We got to push ourselves. We got to push our barriers.
All right, I'll leave that up to you.
All right. Good luck.
So this week, we are not talking about pencil sharpeners. We are talking about
You already did it. Great job.
three non-food things that are keeping you stuck. But before we get to that, I just wanted to remind you that we have a brand new keto challenge coming to town on January 18th, which is like a month away from when this airs.
Yeah, it's coming soon. So I'm excited about that. The last one was a lot of fun. So let's get it going. Get it here faster. Plus, that's going to be in 2021. That's a whole different year. So that means if it's a new year, everything is automatically back to better.
Better year. And it is going to be fun. The last one was a ton of fun. And this one, we want to be even more fun. And we know it will be that way when you do it with a friend. So we do have a special deal right now. If you are still looking for the perfect gift for you or a friend, when you secure your keto challenge spot right now, you will get half off of a second challenge spot for a friend. So if you are still stumped for a gift this year, give your friend the motivation she needs to get back on track with keto. Or if he happens to be brand new, to learn how to keto the right way right from the start, which is really big since learning the good habits right from the start can really help someone stay committed to keto, because then they're not frustrated by zero progress when they follow all of the wrong advice. Or worse, they are not struggling through digestive problems when trying to add in a bunch of fat that maybe their body isn't quite ready for. So we teach all of this when you join the Keto Challenge. And you get to both give and receive with your own gift, since you get to buy a challenge spot for yourself and then give one to your friend for half price. But you need to get in on this deal soon. You can get that at eatingfatisthenew skinny.com/challenge gift.
Yeah, I just want to make a correction from last week because, we talk about a lot of stuff, and when we're wrong, we want to admit they were wrong. And I suggested last week that a Frisbee was a great gift, but I got my 4-year-old a Frisbee after I talked about that, and I wrapped it and put it on the tree, and he's like, "Why'd you get me a Frisbee?" And I'm like, "How do you know it's a Frisbee? It's still wrapped." And he's like, "Well, let's look at it. And why'd you get me that?" So it looks like I was wrong about that, and it looks like now the only option is to get this challenge for your friend and not the Frisbee. So now you kind of limit your options, but at least you know what's right.
If you have a 4-year-old, mine would probably hit me in the head with it. So probably not a good gift.
Accurate.
All right. So let's chat about 3 non-food things keeping you stuck, because yes, weight loss does have a lot to do with what you eat, but there's actually much more to the weight loss story than what you eat. We are going to be talking about 3 things, but there's even more than this. We get to all of that in our Ready Set Keto course and our membership. But let's talk about 3 things on this podcast. So
We added a lot of mindset to the new course thing. Like there's piles of mindset stuff. And a
yes,
lot of it is really helpful.
if your mind is not in the right spot, you won't lose weight. You could have
Right.
perfect keto macros, but you're going to screw it up at some point if you have the wrong mindset. And so not only are we helping our members with all of that new course information, but we are also going to talk about mindset as our first topic now. So your mindset, especially over the holidays, is keeping you stuck when it comes to weight loss. And so one way that that's happening is, a lot of people might say, "Oh, only having one cookie won't hurt." And for some people, they might be okay with one cookie, but for a lot of people, especially if you're new to keto, that one cookie will hurt because it will kick you out of ketosis. And if you're brand new, it can take you up to a week or sometimes even longer to get back into ketosis. So having that mindset with saying one cookie won't hurt is actually not a great mindset to have with keto. Um, for others, it might create a snowball effect of having one cookie, and then, you just keep having those little treats because you say, well, I already had one, so why not have another? Because that won't hurt either. And then it really adds up to really kill your progress quickly.
Yeah, it's easy to say I'm gonna have one cookie, and then a few minutes later to say, yeah, exactly what I said. I'm gonna have one bag of cookies.
Exactly. Or you had a cookie, so you really want to try the brownie. So why not try a brownie too? And oh, they have chocolate covered pretzels. How about one of those? Like, it really snowballs into ruining your whole day. And then once your day is ruined, you're going to feel like crap the next day. And you're probably going to eat more bad food after you feel bad.
Right. So we talked last week about some people who can get away with these types of things and when it might be appropriate and all that kind of stuff. So if you need to check that out, you can hear last week's episode. But for especially those people who are just starting out with keto and trying to get into a consistent state of ketosis and become fat adapted, even the one cookie can really throw you off track more than the cookie was worth it.
Yes. And something else I think when it comes to mindset, especially over the holidays, is people get really stressed out. Like, I know Christmas for us moms, especially, is really stressful. My kids keep telling me that, oh, I'm so excited for Christmas. And I tell them Christmas stresses me out. So now they know this about me. A lot of people get stressed out over the holidays, and that might lead to them not following keto at all, because they're just not in a weight loss mindset. They're so busy trying to buy presents or plan Christmas dinner or do whatever they want to do. And I think it's okay to not necessarily be in a weight loss mindset over the holidays. But I think if that's the case, then you need to be intentional about it. And then you just need to focus on maintaining, like we talked about last week.
Let's talk about that for just a second, because this is probably one of my biggest tricks that helps me in my personal life the most. And I think we kind of breeze over this, and some people might not really know what we're talking about when we say being intentional about it. And so for years, it was like 5 or 6 years, I didn't eat a thing that was wrong, like not a bite that was wrong. And I was psycho about it, but I needed to be. I had a lot of health issues that were very problematic. And so I was very dedicated to doing that. So people thought I was a robot and freaky. I'm a little bit of a robot, but in any case, now I can do things and I can eat junk and I can have pizza and stuff like that on occasion. But when I have it, I always know that I'm going to have it. I don't have a thing where I just like all of a sudden I'm eating buckets of ice cream and I didn't realize that was going to happen. I know when I'm going to go off track, and I also know when I'm going to get right back on. And it makes it easy because I don't have to have the battle in my head of should I have this or shouldn't I have this. If I didn't plan it out, I'm not having it. That's what works best for me. If I don't have a day where I'm like, I'm going to do whatever I want today, that I don't do whatever I want, because it just makes it easy to stay on track and to know that I'm going to feel good. And I don't have to have that thing where I eat all this junk and then I feel awful and like, why did I do that? So that's kind of how I view being intentional is um, know what you're going to do. And then, because then when you do eat the junk, you don't have to beat yourself up. You plan to do it. You did exactly what you planned to do, and you can feel good about that.
Yeah, I think that is true that, then you're not beating yourself up. You don't feel bad because you purposely planned it. I do think if you are new to ketosis and you're trying to make keto work for you, you can't keep going in and out. But there is a trick that
No.
I like to teach people is to have a keto cheat day or a keto cheat meal. So maybe if pizza is your thing, a lot of people can get away with eating cheese on keto, if you're not sensitive. And I know pizza is my favorite cheat meal. So instead of eating keto pizza every day and it just becoming the normal, I'll save it up for when I feel like cheating on keto. So that way, even though I'm not really cheating because I will stay in ketosis, I eat a keto version of pizza and it makes me feel like I'm cheating because it's not something that I eat every day.
Right. That's a really, really good one.
Okay. And something else that can go terribly wrong is if you're not intentional about what you're doing, like keeping the habits that will at least help you maintain it, and you just say, screw it, I'm going to eat anything I want, then not only will you not lose weight, but you'll also probably start gaining back what you lost, and you might even have to start over from scratch. So, getting into the right mindset, be it you want to maintain what you lost, or be it you still want to keep losing, is important. So, definitely keep working on your mindset.
Right.
Okay. The number two non food thing keeping you stuck is relying on exercise to make up for the extra treats that you're allowing yourself. So, there are a lot of memes you might see out there that say that you can't out exercise a bad diet. And it's definitely true. Like, a lot of people want to lead you to believe that you can eat whatever you want and just exercise. And I will tell you that I've tried that method and it doesn't work at all. Um,
Right.
yeah, I finally
You,
learned
you
that.
tried it for decades, though. I think that's different.
Yes, I tried it for decades, over and over and over, and it never worked. And a lot of people still follow the calories in versus calories out, and it took me a long time to for that to really sink in that that really is a myth. So I know you've heard me talk about it here before, you've talked about it here before, but I feel like we need to keep repeating it because it doesn't get into people's heads. Like, they still want to focus on the calories instead of focusing on foods that will shift their hormones in the right way to help them lose weight.
Right. And I used to say this a lot. And when I trained people in the gym, the thing that really helped them understand this is that I would say to this, look, this is how I make my living. I'm making my living from people paying me to help them work out in the gym. And yet I'm still telling you this is not where your results come from. Your results come from this, from what you put in your mouth. That's what's going to make your weight loss results. This stuff can all help, it can all be beneficial, but you're not going to overcome what you're eating by working harder in here. It's not going to give you what you want.
And I think part of the reason that exercising didn't work for me for the decades that I tried it is because I was an over exerciser. And so that would actually lead to me being hungrier and wanting to eat more. So, yes, I'd go to the gym for 2 hours a day and do all the cardio and even throw in some weights. But before I go to the gym, I'd probably have a cookie or two. When I got back from the gym, I'd eat another cookie, maybe, you know, I had a trainer once tell me to drink chocolate milk after my work. Yes, the trainer told me that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, telling me all the wrong things to do. And so when you exercise too much, you can actually be working up an appetite and overeating. And if you think that you just burned everything you're eating off, it doesn't really work that way.
Right. You could also be creating stress hormones that are telling your body to store fat instead of burn it. So there's a lot of downsides to over exercising.
Yeah. So we're not saying don't exercise because exercising is really great for your health. You don't want to be a couch potato. You just don't want to rely on that because you're eating bad foods. It's not going to work out well for you.
Right. So we're definitely saying that we like you to exercise. It's great. But I will say this, if you put your mindset into this point of view, if you had to choose one between working out and eating right, always choose eating right.
Yes. And then choose it again before you overexercise.
Right.
Okay. The number three non food thing that's keeping you stuck is scrolling social media or your news apps too often on your phone. And there's a few different reasons that this could be keeping you stuck. One of the biggest reasons is you're feeding into the negativity on social media. So, as much as we're all addicted to it and as much fun it is, I'm sure a lot of us can agree that there's a lot of negativity that comes out of social media. I talked about in the keto groups, a lot of people are mean and they like to fight. They want to fight about whose way to keto is right. And that can just all create a bunch of stress that you shouldn't really deal with, especially if you want to stay on track and lose weight. Getting stressed out can actually kick you out of ketosis. There's a lot of people out there who tell you there's only one way, and they will try to bully you into the way that they follow keto, even if it's not the right approach for you, because the same approach that works for them might not work for you. I see this happen more frequently back when there were like lower fat, higher protein groups that I was in. I'm no longer in them because people would just fight with me. So I don't go in them. But I do see that often, where it's like they focus on higher protein. They don't want you to eat that much fat because they say your body has body fat to burn. So, if you bring up the word fat bombs, that's like a swear word in there. These people really like to argue, but we do get a ton of people into our keto challenges that really need that high fat approach. So, they're following this lower calorie, higher protein version and it's not working for them. And once they do start adding in the fat bombs and raising their fats, that's when they start seeing results.
Right. And it can be the only way the person's going to see results for some people. I think you're married to one of those people.
Yeah, he had to double his fat to even get into ketosis, which he was already eating a lot. He wasn't like a lot of the people we see in our challenges that benefit from this are a lot of women who have maybe followed low calorie diets for 5, 10, 20 years, however long they've been trying to cut their calories. And their bodies don't understand when they cut their calories so low, they don't feel like they have enough nutrients coming in. So their bodies, instead of letting go of stored fat when they cut calories, will just hold on to it.
Right.
So so that's one way. There's just way too many cooks in those free keto groups. And you just have to realize that different things work for different people. So staying out of those groups might benefit you. And, staying in there, getting confused could be keeping you stuck. Another reason is I don't know if you've noticed lately, but Facebook and many of the other social media platforms are actually starting to do, well, they have been for a while. They're doing some pretty heavy censoring when it comes to alternative approaches like keto or intermittent fasting. And they've even gone so far as to completely shut down some health groups that doesn't fit their message of, basically what the big food industry or big pharma wants them to portray.
Right. And it's, this is, it was coming, it was just happening because this is how a lot of people just who are going to follow everything that happens in the mainstream just kind of believe this. And they're from the point of view of, well, my doctor wouldn't tell me this if it wasn't true because he's a doctor, and maybe they don't understand where the information comes from that the doctor's being educated with. Maybe they don't understand that there's a food chain there and all that kind of stuff, so they just kind of buy into that. And so if that's the mainstream point of view, then Facebook is just taking that point of view. So it's not just alternative health. They take this point of view with a lot of things in the world that are not as accurate as many of us know to be. Um, so it's just you just kind of get lost because people are telling you things that they see working, but then like my doctor says, oh well, keto is not good for you, or you should be eating low fat and all this kind of stuff. So they just get all these messages from everywhere, and it's just really stressful to be that confused about things.
Yeah, and it does get confusing because you want to try keto for weight loss and then someone tells you that you're going to be destroying your health, and then all the articles you run into on Facebook or whatever social media app agree with that because that's what they're telling the algorithm to promote. It will get really confusing for you really quickly. I know, like, if you're not working in the industry you might not know this, but a lot of times we'll put ads up and they get rejected on Facebook because I don't know, I feel like they don't really want to show the truth.
Well, yeah, it's not, and to them, it probably isn't. They're probably doing the right thing in their mind. It's not that they're evil or anything like that. They're misinformed, is how it is. And most people who have not been basically beat up by the medical world uh, don't understand that. Sometimes we have to learn the hard way. And when we learn the hard way, we need to be able to look for our own answers, and we need to be able to find something that's actually going to work with our body and work to address the underlying cause instead of just covering up a symptom. So if a person hasn't had to go through that battle, then they'll just be kind of oblivious to the whole situation, and that's okay. That's just kind of where they are. They haven't had the need to dig for their own answers yet. And when they do, then we'll welcome them in. Good to see you.
And there's one more reason that scrolling social media or news apps too often is keeping you stuck. And that's because I think a lot of people, they just kind of scroll mindlessly. I know I do this myself, so I'm calling myself out, not just people who are listening. But you just scroll social media mindlessly, and suddenly an hour goes by and you have no idea what happened. And so a lot of people will say, oh, I don't have time to lose weight. Who has time to exercise, or who has time to meal plan? But if you have time to sit on Facebook for 20 minutes arguing with people, or reading status updates, then you definitely have time, that time that you can put into planning out your meals ahead of time, or going for a walk, or doing something that will actually push you towards your goals more than scrolling an app would.
Right. And it's a big deal, and we kind of breezed over this a little bit because we said that we're, maybe you don't want to scroll Facebook so much, and you said, or your news app, but the news can be a big deal for a lot of people. And it's been 30 years since I watched the news. And I just decided then that it didn't fit what I wanted my life to be like. I didn't. And one major reason is that try to think of the last time that you watched the news and then felt good. It's not very common that it happens. And when you're feeling bad, that creates chemicals in your body. You're doing all kinds of other things to your mindset that may be attracting other bad stuff to you. So I just removed it completely, and it makes things a lot easier. And I've had a lot of clients that I've said, why don't you just test this out? And it sounds crazy because people feel like I need to be informed. But the reality is that you don't need to be inundated. And that's a lot of what the news can be. And if you just test out going 30 days without watching the news and just see what happens. That's like I heard that there was some pandemic thing going on, but that's about where I'm at. Um, but you don't have to be that clueless. I'm just being funny, but uh, just test it out and see what happens. See what your life is like. Because also another fun game to play is to watch the news with a stopwatch and see how far you can get without seeing a pharmaceutical ad,
Oh yeah.
because you won't make it 7 minutes. And if you understand how business works, I used to have a magazine, and it was a parenting magazine. And the guy that I did it with also was not a parent. I wasn't a parent when we did it, but we fell into this somehow, and we started doing this. But it works that the content of the magazine a lot of times was dictated by the advertisers, and that's how the world works. The world is a magnification of how our magazine worked. And TV shows a lot of times are created around what their advertisers want them to be. So if you're seeing pharmaceutical ads every 7 minutes in the news, and then you see a story about how something is going to be bad for your health that is natural, can you find a correlation there at all? Can you see through what's going on and maybe open your eyes a little bit? It can be a big deal.
So I'm going to get into a little bit of conspiracy theory to kind
Ah,
of explain this point a little bit. Um, Back in the day, you probably heard your grandmother or maybe even your mother talk about it. Your TV programs, they are meant to program your mind. They are programming.
oh, wow, that's pretty good. I've never heard that before.
You must not watch the conspiracy documentary.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't watch them that much, but I'm not against them. But and I'm not. I guess some people would, when I explain in my books that um, the in, that the organizations that create the information that teach in medical schools all come from are funded by pharmaceutical companies. Helping people understand where it's coming from. So some people could call me like a conspiracy theory guy. I don't really view that as a conspiracy thing. I view it as understanding where the information is coming from.
That's the one line in your book that Jason has always repeated since he ever read it, because growing up, his dad was a chiropractor, so he believes more in natural health. And his dad always said that too, that everything they teach in medical schools are funded by the pharmacy companies,
Right.
pharmaceutical companies. So he always repeats that line. He believes at that point.
Right. You have to think through the logic to understand where the information is coming from, and why it's confusing. Why you hear so much about people fixing all these unbelievable health issues by just changing the food that they're eating, and yet the medical world never mentions it. So you got to kind of understand why it's like that, and try not to be so it's hard not to say naive, but that's really what the situation is that when we look the other way about something, we're just being a little bit naive about it. So just look at the logic. And that doesn't mean that all medical world stuff is bad. That's not accurate at all, especially like urgent care. It's unbelievable what they've done. But what's important is that you need to look for your own answers. You need to figure out what's right for you instead of just following what the medical world says, because a lot of times they don't have your best interest in mind.
Yes, and I can also attest that I haven't watched the news at least since I moved to Arizona. I did watch it in Chicago because they have the WGN morning news, which is hilarious. So
Oh,
it's fun to
right.
watch that. But I don't get that here. So I haven't watched it since I've moved here. And your life is just much less stressful because you're not being bombarded with these constant fear mongering stories that unfortunately take up the majority of the news.
Right. You want to feel good. You want to feel good as a human. And it's one thing that when you remove, it just makes it easier. And it makes it easier to feel good as a human.
Yes, but if you are not quite ready to give up your daily news or your daily Facebook scrolling, there are a few things that you can do to do less of it. So maybe you can set a timer for how long that you are on your phone each day, scrolling those news apps or Facebook or whatever social media. Um, Something else that has helped me get more done is I made a rule that I have to be productive for at least 10 minutes before I'll even let myself open Facebook or, whatever it is. So, like, my house is constantly full of clutter because I have two kids and a husband that like to fill it with clutter. So, I have to get up and clean for at least 10 minutes before I'll even open my phone. So, maybe if weight loss is your goal, maybe you have to plan your week for at least 10 minutes before you allow yourself to do any of that. And it really does make a big dent into you reaching your goals because you're actually being productive instead of saying, I'll get to that later and never getting to it.
Right. And then 7 hours later, you're still looking at videos of cats and arguing with people that you've never met.
Yes. Or I know a lot of people have actually taken Facebook or other apps off their phone. So they'll only allow themselves to look at it if they're sitting at a computer. So that way they don't have that temptation.
That's pretty good.
So those are some things you can do. But let's do a quick review of 3 non-food things that are keeping you stuck. Number 1, your mindset. Number 2, relying on exercise or a calories in versus calories out approach. And number 3, wasting time on social media or the news. All
Crushed
right,
it. If you need to jot that down, get your pencil sharpener out and write it out.
forgot all about that. All right, I might need to grab my pencil sharpener soon because my computer is dying.
Oh, no.
All right. Don't forget to check out that special Keto Challenge offer. Buy one spot, get a second spot for half price. Give the gift of health to your friend this season. You can get that deal now at eatingfatistheNewSkinny.com/challenge gift.
If you need to see any show notes stuff or any of the links we talked about, just go to chatthefat.com/episode 87.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see you guys next week.
Whether you're brand new to keto or just looking to move past roadblocks, join us for our next Troubleshooting Keto Master Workshop. Go to chatthefat.com/workshop to find upcoming dates and register for this totally free event. You just might find your missing piece of the puzzle. Until then, we'll see you next week on Chat the Fat.